Hey everybody, Will Hamilton here, and in this video we're going to talk about some crazy and kind of cool math from the US Open, one of the few times math is cool. Apologies to all you math teachers out there. But we're going to talk about Roger Federer versus Novak Djokovic and how, at least by the numbers, Roger Federer should have won that match. He was statistically likely to win that match. He basically, when he was up 40-15 in the match, in the fifth set, like we're going to see, it was as if he was holding pocket aces in poker. You know, he had pushed all his money in the middle of the table, and the cards were going to come out as they may, and he got what you could quote-unquote call, if you're a poker player, a bad beat. So with that in mind, let's say that Federer hits 100 serves, right? Or not 100 serves, let's say he steps up to the line to serve 100 times. And if you looked at the match statistics, you can go to usopen.org to dig up these statistics. His first serve percentage was 61%. So for 100 serves, he's going to get 61 first serves in. When he got a first serve in, he won the point 67% of the time. So that means out of these 61 first serves he gets in, he's going to win 40.87 points, okay? And then the other times, he doesn't get that first serve in, that means he's going to hit a second serve. So it's 39% of the time. That means he's hitting 39 second serves, and he wins those 56% of the time, and that's going to end up being 21.84 points. So you add these two together, and you get 62.71 points won per 100 serves. So in other words, when Fed steps up to the line, it's the beginning of the point, steps up to the line to serve, he can expect to win that point 62.71% of the time. And again, that's whether he hits a first serve or a second serve. It's just he steps up to the line, 62.71% of the time, I can expect to win this point. That means 37.29% of the time, he can expect to lose the point. So what we're going to do now is say, well, what are the odds of Fed losing 2 service points in a row? Because that's what happened when he was up 40-15, right? He lost those 2 points in a row. He had double match point, lost both those points, right? Well, the calculation for that is, it's basically like saying, okay, I've got a coin. What are the odds of getting heads twice in a row? Well, it'd be 1/2 times 1/2, which would end up being 1/4. So 25% of the time you would get heads twice in a row, or 25% of the time you get tails twice in a row, whatever. So in the case of, or in the context of this discussion, you would go 0.3729 times 0.3729. So the odds of something happening back to back. And when you multiply these two things together, it ends up being 13.9% of the time Fed's going to lose 2 service points back to back, which means he can expect to win the match 86% of the time, right? That's crazy. So, yeah, I think that's clear, right? 14% of the time he loses 2 points back to back, which means if that doesn't happen, aka the other 86% of the time, he wins the match. So 86%, at the beginning of this video I said it was like having pocket aces. Well, when you have pocket aces and you're up against another opponent and you put all your money in the middle of the table, you flip your cards over and you let the dealer deal out those 5 cards, your odds of winning are 85% of the time. So I'm sure many of you have played Texas Hold'em, oh, pocket aces, I'm a huge favorite, right? Well, Fed basically had pocket aces and he got that bad beat. Now, obviously, we're not taking into account how do you play the big points, what's the mental aspect there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're just kind of stirring the pot, like I said before, with this math because I find it kind of interesting. So Fed basically had pocket aces, and if you actually redo this calculation and you assume that he's going to get 2 first serves in a row, which is what he did, his winning percentage actually goes up to 89%. So basically, Federer had an 89% chance of winning that match, and it didn't happen. And again, in reality, hats off to Djokovic. He played phenomenal on that first particular point where he kind of closed his eyes and just hit an absurd return, and then he fought off that great body serve Federer hit on the next point, and maybe Fed thought about that short forehand he got a little bit and clipped the tape, bounced out. But Djokovic came up huge there, certainly deserved to win that match, but again, interesting math here. Now the final kind of point I want to leave you with, or kind of observation, it's not really a calculation or a math point, but it's more related to the rankings. And there's this question of, will Fed win another major? And I think, actually, if Fed wants to win another major, he should focus more on the smaller tournaments. So in other words, the Masters, 1000s, and the other tournaments he plays. Now, why might he do that, right? You're saying, well, you know, what does focusing on a smaller tournament have to do with the majors? Well, what Fed would want to do is really perform well in those tournaments to get more points and work his ranking up to number 2 in the world. So you'd have Djokovic, you'd have Fed, then you'd have Rafa. Because when that happens, then you would get Djokovic and Rafa in the same half of the draw, and Federer would be by himself on the other half. Right now, you've got Djokovic at 1, Fed at 3, so they play in the semis, and if Fed had gotten through that, he would have played Rafa in the final. Obviously, Rafa has his number. Well, Djokovic has Rafa's number. So if Fed gets to number 2 in the world, Djokovic, Rafa play in the semis, you assume Djokovic wins that. Then you have Djokovic, Federer final. Djokovic has a much better chance, in my opinion, of beating, Federer has a much better chance of beating Djokovic right now than Rafa does. Rafa right now is just, you know, doesn't have the answers. I mean, the U.S. Open final, which was a great final, a bruising match, really interesting to watch, should have been straight sets. I mean, Djokovic got a little nervous, didn't serve it out in 3, and then the 4th set obviously was a beatdown. So Rafa really doesn't have the answers right now, but I think Federer does have the answers for Djokovic. Again, beat him at the French Open, technically by the math, 89% chance of winning that match, and just, you know, Djokovic came up big, cracked the aces. And I think one of the reasons, just from a technical perspective, that Federer does better against Djokovic than Rafa does is because of this concept of strike zones. All you baseball players understand the strike zones, the low pitches, the pitches kind of waist level, and then the high pitches. Well, so that'd be low, medium, and then high. Well, I'm going to break out all my colors, but Federer is a master of giving people low pitches. That slice backhand, real effective there, right? So Federer's great at that, but Rafa really is good with the high pitches. I mean, he goes the lefty forehand high to a righty's backhand. That really is effective against basically everybody except for Djokovic. It works, obviously it works great against Federer. Federer really struggles with that high one-handed backhand. But that's really how Rafa makes his living, is just putting the ball high to someone's backhand. Not effective against Djokovic. Djokovic can rip that thing back cross-court. He can go down the line. He really doesn't struggle with it too much. So the thing that Djokovic does, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but isn't nearly as able to hurt you, is with the low pitches. And Rafa tried to give Djokovic low pitches. He tried to slice a lot down the line. And, you know, especially early in that match, he was really going with the low slices down the line. And obviously, it didn't get it done. Rafa's slice not as good as Fed's slice, who, you know, Fed's kind of got that, I mean, his slice is absurd, that laser right there. It's a sweet shot. So that's just sort of, you know, my perspective on kind of this rivalry here. I compared it in the past to kind of rock, paper, scissors, how these guys are sort of beating each other. But in any event, that's my view on the rivalry, is that Fed's got a better chance of beating Djokovic right now than Rafa does. So if Fed can get to number 2, he's positioning himself well in terms of the draw of a major to get to the final and then play a guy he has a very good shot of beating. So anyway, with that in mind, please let me know what you think of this video. If I have messed up a calculation here, please be kind with your comments. But looking forward to seeing what you have to say, and I will see you guys